Hi, folks. Chris Voss here from the ChrisVossShow.com, the ChrisVossShow.com. Hey, we're coming here with another great podcast, the Chris Voss Show. Thanks for tuning in. Be sure to give us a like, subscribe to us on YouTube, hit that bell notification button so you get all the notifications on the Chris Voss Show. Be sure to follow us on our Facebook page and also on Periscope, which we're also broadcasting live for. Thanks to AT&T, who always has the fastest and speediest download speeds for us. We're actually using the Samsung Galaxy S8 to live broadcast its Periscope. So thanks to them for sharing the great things. Be sure to watch the reviews we do for them. Be sure to also follow us on Patreon at patreon.com/Chris Voss. Got an exciting podcast to bring you here. We're going to be talking about entrepreneurship, building your own business and stuff like that. I brought in Tim Forrest from Tim Forrest Consulting. Tim is a consumer product brand and distribution visionary with over 30 years of experience transforming businesses from optimizing marketing and sales systems and driving innovation leadership. Welcome to the show, Tim. How you doing, buddy?
Hey, thanks, Chris. I'm doing great today. Thank you very much for having me here.
All right. All right. So you do a lot of consulting, looks like, for some very big companies, very big people, according to your website. You're also a photographer, as we were discussing before the show. Tell us about you, where you came from, where you got to, some of the aspects of entrepreneurism that really helped you.
Yeah, I mean, real quick and real simple. My dad was an iron worker, so I grew up knowing how to work and work my way. I worked in a steel mill in college. And so once I graduated school, I got a job, which I had no idea at the time, Chris, that I was going to be in the food business, but I got a job loading food trucks. And so here I am 30 years later, still in the food business. I've had my own consulting company, Tim Forrest Consulting, for 20 years now. There's a picture on my website, but if you can imagine 30 years ago, I was literally loading food trucks and I got promoted up to actually driving a truck. And so I delivered, my first delivery was to one of my clients. Fast forward 20 years, I was actually on their corporate jet helping them they were going to make some changes in their food business and helping them with their retail leadership and actually train them. I developed a little 2-day seminar for them, and we did a little tour, and it was just pretty unbelievable to go from loading the trucks to all the way to leading a seminar for a big company, helping their leadership.
That's awesome. So it gave you an insight to where you wanted to go with your life?
Yeah. Well, not loading trucks. I knew I wanted to get off the loading dock.
The next step, I'm sorry.
Yeah. And so my goal is, how can I get off this loading dock? At the time, I really thought, oh my gosh, how will I ever achieve my goals? Here I am, I've graduated school. I want to do all these things, and how am I going to do that here on the loading? I really thought, wow, this has nothing to do with my future. Not realizing, I had no idea that like future opportunities, future bosses, future education, future experiences all kind of develop from that. They're like, Tim, if you can load those trucks, you can do, this is a simple job. And so I ended up working for the 2 largest branded food companies in the world, Nestle and Unilever, and put together some of those guys. And so much of what I've done in my consulting business over the last 20 years is I've developed kind of Chris, you might use the term hack, but I've developed these methods that I've modeled after the largest food brands in the world, largest companies in the world. And I'm able to do that for entrepreneurs and small guys. And we do it on an easy much less expensive method than they would do it. So an entrepreneur doesn't have $250,000 to do something. So we'll duplicate some of those processes, but we'll do it with his friends and family, and we'll start there. So then we ramp up from that beginning without having to spend a lot of money.
That's awesome. And being able to make that distinction and being able to do sometimes when we were starting our companies back in the day, we call it sweat equity.
Exactly.
There's a lot of sweat equity that went into it. Most of the body and hair and whatever brain is left over now was all given to that sweat equity back in the day.
Exactly. And it's work. Like a friend of mine, Jason Shaw, came to me and his team, they're like, Tim, we want to grow olives in the southeastern US. And he had been studying in Italy and noticed the climate there was so similar to southeastern Georgia where he grew up. And so he's like, I want to grow olives and go forward. And fast forward about 5 years now, he's got over 100,000 olive trees in the ground, Chris. And the Wall Street Journal the Wall Street Journal just recently announced it's one of the top olive oils in the United States, the Georgia Olive Farms olive oils, and that was a project that I was fortunate to be invited on. And I started just like we're talking about. We had nothing. We had no olives, we had no trees, we had no label, no branding, no process. They had some ideas of what they wanted to do. And so we kind of worked through that, and we were very fortunate, very successful.
That's awesome. I mean, that's the greatest thing I love about the entrepreneurial spirit is you can take an idea, turn it into something that either people really need or want, and be successful with it. And sometimes the beautification is that idea, or the other beautification is getting someone to finance it.
Yeah, right. Part of my work, I mean, it's so many of the things that I do are so simple, and it's really it's amazing what simple little things can do for a business. And one of the things that I've done is I help people simply raise prices. They really don't realize how important the pricing is to a product. And a lot of times people think, no, I can't raise pricing because of this. Pricing so often really is an issue of self-confidence and not business. And when I do that, and I do that in a big way for certain clients, we can make magic, literally make magic happen. And that's what I've been able to do with my clients. A lot of my clients.
Yeah, I've seen companies. In fact, we had someone on the podcast recently who they just finally had to make a big announcement to their audience and their list, saying, you know what, we've been selling ourselves short for a long time and giving away too much product, and we're going to have to raise prices, and that's the way it is. And yeah, definitely being able to ask for what you're worth is a very important thing, or to know the value of what you're worth and your services and stuff. One of the challenges I always rail against being an entrepreneur is people that give away everything for free, or they give away everything for trinkets. And because they don't stand up for what they do, it has an effect on the environment as a whole of the rest of us, where they're bottom base, meaning everyone's prices because they're willing to do stuff for nothing, and then they complain about how they don't get paid.
Exactly. And there's I wrote an article, this going back several years, but the bell curve of pricing. And so some people think automatically your sales are going to go up as you lower pricing, but it doesn't work that way. It really, you actually lower sales as you go down the pricing. Same thing, when you raise pricing so high, you actually lower units. But the thing is, you're profitably delivering that value to customers, and it allows you to do a lot of things that you can't do at those lower price points. It allows you to bring in other folks so you can concentrate on the consumers. It allows you just to market and promote, and allows you to grow. And it also allows for investors to come into your business because they see that higher price point, the margins you're making. And so, bam, that's where the magic can happen with businesses.
And to be really successful, you've got to get employees, you've got to expand your base, you've got to really be able to price all that in. I think it's hard for when you're first starting out or first starting a business that you've never done before, and you're pricing it to where it's just you, but then you realize that somehow that has to scale to a point of including all the employees that you need to hire. And unless you grow and get other people to do stuff, you can't really become a huge business, because number one, you can't do it all. And of course, you can expand your sales, which will expand the servicing employees that you have to do to service the sales, and around we go through the cycle of the business.
Exactly, Chris.
So, given your experience in coming up, what sort of entrepreneur tips would you suggest? What do you people that are trying to run their own business, they're running their own consultancy, since you have a very successful consulting business? What sort of advice would you give to people that are trying to get their thing out from a small company?
Yeah, consistently, I've been able to help clients like what you're sharing. I've been able to help them grow, and the things that really make the difference. The number one thing is speak the language. I really think that's probably number one. Speak the language of your customers. And so if you can do that, and whatever it takes for you to get that language, to get the vocabulary, That's just so important. I've published 3 books. Both of them are vocabulary books. One's for retail. The other's for syndicated data, because a lot of what I learned and worked with the big brands was syndicated data. And then the third one is Walmart. I've been successful with Walmart. So just the Walmart terminology. So number one is terminology. You want to talk their language. So whether it's retailers, customers, if you're talking to doctors, dentists, I'm involved. One of my clients, and I'm involved in the medical industry with some projects. And so it's so important that you talk to doctors on their terms. You can't sell a doctor in any other way except how a doctor will accept product generally. So you want to talk in terms that the client will understand. You want to talk, use their language, use their problems. That's what I think number one opportunity is as far as when growing your business, Chris. And then some others. I didn't want to interrupt you. Did you have a question?
No, I was just agreeing with you there.
Okay. And then the other things, I mean, it's so simple. And when I share it with you, you'll know. But if you can get someone to introduce you to the buyer instead of you contacting the buyer, I've used that. I mean, literally, I've used that for millions and millions of dollars of new business. Millions, if not hundreds of millions.
Wow.
Secret little thing. I've taken 20 different entrepreneurial groups or companies that wanted to go into the club store business. Club stores is a part of the food retailing industry. And so I've taken them, they've never done business there, and introduced them to club stores. QVC television, everyone wants, a lot of entrepreneurs want to get on QVC television. I did as well. Years to get my first item on there. And then I figured out this, I said, wait a second, I'm not getting anywhere. And so then I kind of figured out, got the first item on there. And then very quickly I had 12 items. Within 2 years of that first item, I knew what was going on. I knew the people involved. I knew what was happening. And then I had 12 items on there very quickly.
Wow.
So, yeah, so that's another key. And you think, wow, you want to get, I want to do everything myself. And when I was younger, it's like my ego, I wanted, like Tim has to do it. I want to be the best. I want to be the best salesperson or whatever it is. Like I can be the best salesperson. But there's people out there that have already done it. And so just if you can follow, if they can introduce you, they can bring you to the deal, give them a small percentage of it. Really, that's where so much opportunity is. The other thing,
networking, huge.
Oh, yeah.
Networking, very huge.
Piece, Chris, is I like to, I ask myself and my customer. Luckily, I've been very successful in this area. But if you had every customer, if you're an entrepreneur just starting out, you want to grow your business. For me, looking backwards, I can see this, and I know you'll understand this. But if you had every customer today that you ever had in the history of your business, how big would your business be?
Be pretty huge.
Exactly. So entrepreneurs just starting out, if they'll build that into their DNA of their business, how can they keep every client that comes to their business? How can that become a part of their business 5 years, 10 years from now? I have clients, and I don't know if it was luck. I mean, I didn't know this early on, but I have clients for more than 10 years, multiple clients for more than 10 years. And I wouldn't be able to do the things I do without those clients. And that's a big part of my success is that, and you think, I think that's some big secret. It's a insight for me and a paradigm shift when I'm thinking about my programs and what I do. But it's not some fancy new age idea or some fancy new thing. I mean, it's common sense and simple, but it's hard to do.
Yeah. When we had our courier company, we had some of our earliest clients we kept for 13 years. Wow. And the only reason we closed the business down was I moved out of state. And after 2 years of running it from another state, I got interested in other things. But one of the aspects of it is sometimes we'd really screw something up for a client to a point that they'd be like going, we need to not do business together because you guys really fouled this up. And we'd be like, you know what? This month's free on us. It's free. And they'd be like, really? You're going to give us the whole month for free because you screwed up one day? And we'd be like, yep, we want you to be happy. That's the most important thing to us. So this whole month is for free. We kept those clients for 13 years. And every now and then we'd screw up really bad, give them a free month. But keeping clients happy and focusing on that long ball, because we weren't concerned about just making money month to month with a client. we were concerned about their long-term goals and our long-term goals. And we knew that by keeping them happy, we keep them around hopefully forever. Not
Exactly.
But usually having that attitude too, there were many times when I've had clients with our different companies over the years, they'll leave us, go try another service, fine with me. They usually come back.
Exactly. Yeah. Exactly. And that's
they find out the hard way.
I've had so many situations where I've screwed up. I've screwed up royally in different problems and different issues. But when you fix it, you end up having a better relationship with that customer. It ends up working to your benefit. It seems when you take ownership of the problem, just like you handled, you mentioned, Chris. Did it work?
Looks like you locked up there, Tim. Can you hear me? Well, it looks like we might have gotten our feed locked up from Tim. Tim, can you hear me now?
I can now. I can hear you now.
There you are. Looks like we had a break up there. We lost whatever that last bit of things you said for the last 10 seconds or so.
Oh, I was just sharing with you. I mean, it sounds like you've experienced this, Chris, but for me, when I've screwed up and taken ownership of the problem and fixed it and taken some action, I end up having a better relationship with the customer than before the problem.
Mm-hmm.
And
yeah,
so
how you deal with it is super important. And then I think when people know that you know what you did wrong, and your willingness to fix it, of course, tied to that, is a real huge aspect in that. Because when you're trying to blame other people, I've been guilty of this, and sometimes where some employees misled us about what actually happened, and I was taking their story, and it wasn't the right story. We found out later, but being able to just take blame for it and be responsible, the buck stops here, is a real important aspect of keeping clients and making them happy.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
So you built a pretty good business. Is there a certain aspect business you focus with your consulting, or is it pretty broad? Or
yeah, I do. Well, primarily I deal with ownership, business ownership. So people that own businesses and want to grow that business, and that's really what I focus on. So each project can be really anything in the business. I'll manage an agency, so I'll manage design or marketing agencies. When I work for larger, some of my clients are billion-dollar clients, but when I work for those guys, they like it's really a set focused job that I'll do for them. It'll be like a package design, real tight and limited, which I enjoy. I mean, I enjoy doing that. I enjoy working with, but the fun part is working with startups, so non-revenue, and being able to bring them to market, and then putting together programs to introduce them to the marketplace in the United States. I'm so fortunate to work with clients, international clients, that want to come to the U.S. The U.S. is about a third of many product categories in the world. When you look at a global basis, a third of those sales are in the U.S., if not more for certain categories. So roughly a third. So to help international clients come into the U.S. market, that's been an area that I've enjoyed. I've worked with quite a bit over the years. It's been very exciting. That's one of the reasons I enjoy speaking overseas and getting to travel. And that was, when I got started early on, working with these big companies, that was one of my goals. I wanted to travel as much as possible, and I wanted a business to pay for it. And so that was one of my big goals for being in sales and marketing. Wow, I get to travel, and I get an expense account, and I get to go here and there. And so I always try to take advantage of those trips.
People paying you to travel, that's always a great thing.
I know. I get it's just crazy. I was in the Adriatic Sea. I was on the island of Rock, and I was working at a winery. A very wealthy individual built literally a $200 million winery on the island of Rock. And here I am doing the tour, going through before they opened up, and I was like, wow, I'm paid to be. I was just very excited,
Mm-hmm. I guess it probably depends on the project, but what's a big thing that you like to do? Do you like to usually do a spec sort of contract or a yearly contract with clients to tie them in, or what would you suggest to people that are trying to get their consulting business going?
Well, I wouldn't be in business if I didn't, you know, the way to think about it from an internet, Chris, from an internet perspective, I basically sell subscription consulting services. So I'm on subscription. That's a way to describe it. But the way that I work, I get involved with projects, but really I get involved with people. Because I'm a boutique, small, I really have I have subcontractors, and then for each project, you know, whatever is needed, we go out and bring in the talent. But because of the way I operate, the way I handle business, I just work with a very few people, and they come to me. We get along. They want to work with me, Chris, and then we take their business to where it needs to go. Nothing happens overnight, and so, you know, for me to do anything less than a year with a client would be a very short-term project. And so I get involved knowing that it's a long-term. So basically, in a nutshell, and I've been very fortunate, made a lot, you know, made a lot of money from different projects, but you know, there's an initial fee to get me started, and then each month basically pays the expenses, and then when we find success, that's when I'll make most of my pay, because you know, for me to say you're going to owe, you know, here's the check you owe me, it's difficult to say that going into a project, but if they say we're going to find this much money, it's a lot easier for them to pay me. And so does that answer your question?
Yeah, I think so. Do you do equity positions then, or do you just have like balloons, sort of performa?
I do. I do equity positions with some, but that's not my goal. Mm-hmm. About 10 years ago, I was doing a lot of that, but you have to wait. I have to wait for a financial event in order to take advantage of that. So I really am not that excited about it. Also, one of my clients that I was all excited about, we bought a fleet of trucks, and this particular client, I owned 10% of that company. And then, so all of a sudden the client was having financial troubles. And then I was on the hook for a percentage of the debt. And I was like, oh, wow, I don't like this, you know? So I want to avoid that, but I am involved with some companies on an equity basis. Also, I'm working, I do have a portfolio of companies I work with that but that's not my focus. That's more today. It's companies I go out and approach. When people come to me, I don't often really am not that interested in equity positions for people that come to me.
So what's the best way you can advise people that are building their consulting business to get new clients? I think that's probably the hardest thing for people, is to find new clients, identify people that they can work with, and find them. What's some way to work for you in the past?
Well, for me, Chris, number one is the whole, what you suggested is the problem. When the mindset of you have to go out and find clients, that's the issue. That's why any consultant that's going out, you're already at a loss if you're thinking that way. So you need to flip it around. What you have to do, and what I've done, is clients have to find you, and that's really the only way I've been successful. If I contact a client and say, hey, hire me, you know, I get them on the telephone, I'm a great consultant, I'm going to help you. They're like, oh, really? Okay, how about I send you $10, you know, or something crazy. I mean, it just doesn't work. It just really doesn't work.
What's a good way for someone who's building their consulting business to position themselves for people to come to?
Yeah. Well, number one, when positioning, you need to be yourself. You know, you need to be who you are and beyond. But primarily, you need to make yourself aware, make yourself visible to the type of clients you want to contact you. So you've got to put yourself into positions and locations, whether it be online or in public or at events, such that they become aware of who you are through friends and connections. Just like we were talking a while ago, Chris, about customers and growth, keeping those customers. Your customers also know other potential customers of your firm. So do a good job for them. And so word of mouth is one, but really, how can you take action right now? So what you need to do is do things on, you know, the easiest way right now is to write. So write blog posts, write a book, you know, get a commercially published book, do videos, have a YouTube channel, create content that kind of shares your thought process out there. You know, a lot of my friends, when I first started publishing on my blog, I think I started about 10 years ago. they couldn't believe I was giving away so much information. They're like, you need to keep that back, but give it all away, give as much as you can away. The more value you bring, the more people are going to come to you.
Yeah, and it's amazing too, because I've had people ask me to do business with them, and I'm just like, some of this stuff, if you just actually went and watched all my content, you might get it. But that's why they're paying you, is to give to them directly and specifically targeted to what they want to take and do. That's the biggest challenge I think you have with just about any business. The subscription model you reference is pretty nice because you get that recurring sort of business, whether it's a monthly business or whatever your subscription thing is. Certainly with businesses, I've had businesses that were kind of subscription models where they were monthly, and for years clients would need us. They always paid monthly. And then I've had businesses where you would do a big deal for them, and then 2 or 3 years later, they'd be calling you back. Or sometimes when you've done the deal with them, you never see them again. The mortgage business is one of those businesses that as soon as we did their mortgage, we didn't hear from them for 2 or 3 years. And sometimes we didn't hear from them at all. But it was hard in that business, because you do the business and you're done, then you got to go scramble for more things. And sometimes it's hard to balance, the getting fat process where you get that big client, everything's full at the table, and you don't really go do your work to go get new clients. And then one day that big client disappears and you're like scrambling, going, I gotta go, and trying to balance the servicing current clients, working on getting new clients, or, doing what you talk about, creating content to attract new clients. It's a definite challenge, and it's something you have to work out in your timeline of how much of my day am I spending on this and how much of my day am I spending on that.
Right, exactly. But you just have to do it, and you have to do it daily. And that's been my challenge, is to myself, is to write. I want to write so much per day. And one of the things I do, and I have literally, I carry notebooks around with me. And so I'm always filling up these notebooks with ideas. And so this is probably just to be able to grab a pen and write down an idea when you have it for content is just so valuable and important.
What's a notebook? Is that an app on my phone? No.
Oh yeah. yeah. I've got on my phone as well.
Millennials right now watching the show, Tim.
I know. And so I could pull out, where's my phone? But sometimes I've got Evernote, and so
using millennials, because they're just like, it's in your hand. It's always in your hand.
It's not. It's gone in 5 seconds. I mean, I really believe, I subscribe to that 5 seconds it's gone. But that's why on my phone now I do have Evernote, and so it syncs with my laptop and my son. So I'll do the same thing. I'll take out notes and put it in Evernote. Even in preparing, thinking about our call today, Chris, there's a note in Evernote that I had. Anyway, I went back to Evernote, and there's that list of 10 items in Evernote that I use for our call today. Just some information. Cool. Yeah.
Cool. Yeah, Evernote. I expect a check for this plug if you're listening. Evernote's a great resource. A lot of people use it and they really master it. And I think you're right. Writing down ideas is super important. If you're an entrepreneur, you live the business 24/7.
Yes.
And if you're not living the business 24/7, you're probably failing as an entrepreneur. And that's probably it's one of the hardest things about the business, where you live it 24/7. I like you probably had to interrupt, family functions or different things and go, well, I got to go deal with this client, or, and make them happy. But
luckily,
the benefit is you can write a check for your paycheck anytime you want. You don't have to wait till Friday. So that's a gift.
Exactly. Yeah, it's been that's always a challenge, and but I was this way before. I was this way before I've been married for 31 years, and so I was this way before we got married, and so it's not a lot has changed as far as being focused and doing the things that I do.
Well, 31 years, congratulations. That's I can't seem to stay with anybody for more than 30 minutes, so I'm not sure.
I think maybe the business travel has helped me to survive that.
Hopefully your wife isn't listening. Radar's probably picking up somewhere, I'm sure.
Yeah, she's not very She doesn't get really excited about business stuff. Talking about, I don't know. Have you ever heard of the game WoW?
I think so. I'm not really a big. Is it a board game?
No, it's a game online. World of Warcraft, something like that. But anyway, she's
World of Warcraft. Yeah, evidently I've heard of that, and evidently I'm not too savvy on it.
Yes, I'm not either, but she's a big time gamer, and she does really well. Yeah, she's an art historian, and then also, but she's really, she's very, very smart. But she's been playing WoW for like 10 years, so she's a rogue, which I've learned in WoW. And she's also she's one of the top 20 in the world, 100 in the world in a particular game. Yes.
I wish I could meet a girlfriend or wife who love gaming, because usually they're yelling at us going, "Get off the console!"
Right. Yeah, but for me, it's like my work is a game, and so it just has never had that much appeal to me. The gaming stuff.
Yeah, I have the same way with gambling. Like I live here in Vegas, and people are like, "Do you ever go out and gamble?" I'm like, "No." And I go, "Why?" I go, "Because those palaces are built on losers' money, and I'd rather play a gambling. If I'm going to gamble, I'll gamble starting a business, because at least I can kind of control the odds to a certain degree. And I can if I'm losing, I can try putting more work and more thought into my companies. But it's definitely a thing, and I think a lot of people struggle with it when they're building a consulting business. What to do, how to set it up, how to contract it, how to find new clients. I remember early on when I got into social media and started building an agency, I really wasn't. Somebody just called me up one day, a CEO of a company, and they said, "You're doing really well at this. We'll pay you to teach us." And I'm like, "You'll pay me to teach you this crap I'm doing?" Okay. Sure. And I remember a lot of people coming to me asking who my clients were and trying to figure out how we were getting clients back at those times. And, I've always been a very vocal sort of, when we had our bigger companies, I always did newsletters. I've always been that big mouth CEO. I just have a big damn mouth. I mean, that's really my problem, I suppose, in life, my predisposition, if you will. So, and I guess I assume that people actually give a damn what I think. People do. So whether I'm a narcissistic idiot or I don't know what, it seems to work for me and attract people to like me or hate me. I seem to get plenty of both. So there's that, but at least people are attracted to me.
Yeah, that's what you're sharing, Chris, is, success leaves clues, and what you're sharing, and anyone that's listening should follow your success. And what I'm sharing with is to be very direct, share their insights, and share whether it pisses people off or not. Let people know what you think and what you know, and don't sugarcoat it, and just be out there. And you're not going to have big fans if you don't have people that say hate you. As long as half the people, I think that's the optimum. I think you can't do any more than half. But if half the people love you and the other half hates you, I think that's a perfect measurement of where you're going for.
I should start doing surveys on my social media. All right, so how many of you really hate me? How many of you really like me? I've actually caught people on social media talking on Twitter between each other about me. And I'll never forget, it was kind of funny. I saw somebody one day, they're like, "That Chris Voss, he's such an annoying, stupid," I'm sure they use some colorful language. And the other person responded on Twitter. They're like, "Yeah, I hate him too. I think he's an idiot." And the other person goes, "Yeah, the only reason I haven't blocked him or unfollowed him is because I'm just waiting to see what he does next and waiting for the car crash." And so like, wow, man. So congratulations. I'm just, I hope I entertain you whenever I hit the wall. But I thought it was funny that even though they hated me so bad, they couldn't give up watching me. So
right, yeah, that's awesome. As long as it's not more than half, that's I think you're okay.
Yeah, I must be doing pretty good. That, or I don't know, I don't know. I'll have to do some polling. How many of you really hate me? I've had actually people write to me, and I think they think they're being complimentary, but they've actually said, you're so much of a jerk sometimes that the only reason we still tune in is to see your dogs. And it wasn't we wouldn't tune in anymore. I think that was during the election, and things were very polarized. Not like they're not polarized now, but back then a lot of people were arguing online about who's going to vote for who, and I think a lot of that came out of that, where people like, we're sick of some of your points of view, Chris. But the interesting thing too, that speaks to what we're talking about though, is your brand's reputation and your brand's what's the word I'm looking for? Your brand's what people expect out of your brand. Like, I've had people actually write me and they go, I disagree with you on some of your points, and sometimes you're a real jerk, but you have values and aspects that just about everything you're principled on is about honesty, trustworthy, standing up for what you believe in, being very vocal, even if you're going to take some arrows for it, not backing down to a point where you're hiding because you're worried that it might affect your bottom line or your sales, and trying to stick to a modicum, if you will, of integrity. And I think that's why a lot of people, I've actually been told that people go, I can, even though I don't agree with you on some of your opinions, you seem to really try and work to go to the line of integrity, caring about other people. You might call some of it liberal. I don't look at it that way, but I guess it has to fit that mode. But I really do care about other people, want other people to succeed, and have a lot of empathy for other people. And I think that has to be congruent in your brand, as to how it is. Otherwise, the good, the bad, and the ugly fades away. Where if I do something stupid or say something stupid, people might see it as disingenuous, or a lie or cheat. And where people can look at me and go, you know what? At least Chris is honest, even though he's an asshole. And I don't subscribe to all of his views. At least I know he's honest with me. And I think being honest with your audience is a huge portion of that. There's been a lot of things that I bare my soul with my audience, and it's actually helped a lot of other people deal with issues they had, either with closure, in the same sort of instances that I did. And I think a lot of people get that from my brand, that I enjoy helping other people and enjoy sharing, because it helps others. And if that makes the world a better place, well, then great. And so I think people have to look at that in their content and their brand and say, is there a thread of integrity, honesty, value, caring, that goes through my brand? I see a lot of people, they try and do, their own podcast, they try and do their own communications. And whether they realize it or not, I can see the PR filter. I can see the bullshit that you're putting at me. I can kind of start seeing sometimes behind your veneer, or where your message is, not your message, I'm not talking about you, Tim, but where their message is, you can see some of the hypocrisy between what they're posting, what they're saying, and you're like, over here, that doesn't match over there. And so I think people have to really do that with their brand, where they have to go, what does my brand stand for? What does it represent to other people? And when they look at me, are they seeing that I'm consistent in that message, or that I'm full of shit, I'm full of crap sometimes?
Yeah. Yeah, Chris, you're right. You're right on. And a lot of folks that they don't want to work with me, or that I don't get along with very well, are those companies or entrepreneurs or people that own businesses that don't want to work, because so much of what I do requires so much effort and so much work on their part. And I've developed, talking about marketing and branding, I've got a on my website, and I can go into all that, but I've got a thing called the 9 pillars. 9 pillars of marketing success for food companies, food brands. And it really works with anyone. But what you're doing, those 9 pillars are, you're doing all the work for your buyer, and you're doing so much more work than other vendors, bringing so much more value to the table than other people in the market, and then competitors, and then you're bringing your best self to the table, that a lot of people that don't want to work, they're like, wow, I don't want to do all that. You mean that's my job? Literally, that's my job. And I know this from seeing so many different, working with so many different companies, that that they don't want to do those things. When you're the biggest companies in the world, you've got to do those things. You're going to bring to the table so much value in so many different areas that smaller entrepreneurs don't realize that the bigger guys are doing that every day. Yes, they've got a lot more resources. You've got to do it as well, but you've got to do it in your own method, in your own manner. The other thing, talking about honesty, literally, I've helped companies grow literally by hundreds of millions of dollars in my consultancy. But you're asking about when I started, I didn't have a business card for my first year, because those first two clients, how do you get your first two clients? Those first two clients, I knew them before I started my consultancy. So my work began a long time down the road. I didn't just wake up one day and say, hey, let's be a consultant. Let me be a consultant tomorrow. I'm going to figure out what kind of value I can bring. I'm a smart guy, and I'll figure this out. I rely on my experience and my training. I worked 10 years with the biggest brands in the world before I started doing what I do. And that's really, I am a smart guy, but you're not hiring me because I'm some genius. What you're getting is my experience and my failures as well, and problems and different things that I've dealt with, and hopefully can help folks to achieve, around that.
Because you know what works and what doesn't work, and you've been through
Right.
that, and you your clients that time to do the thing. You bring up another point too. Anytime we built a business, we've usually built it around prior clients, and people sometimes don't realize that the diamonds, the acres of diamonds, if you will, if I can quote Earl Nightingale, or I think it was somebody else who also did that, but Earl Nightingale gave the story to his radio show. But they don't realize that sometimes just around them in their circles is business awaiting for them to dig into, and they just have to mine it and anything else. And those are the people, I think my coffee's wearing off. Maybe time to reload the coffee. They sometimes it's right there to tap, and those are the people that you have the most rapport with and the most trust with, that know you and are willing to give you businesses. One of our first big businesses was actually a company I was working for, and the CEO said, "Look, Chris, unless you go get this out of your system, you're going to keep bugging me. So just go it, and when you fail, come back to the company and we'll do it." And he funded actually the first 2 months. And what was funny was once it became successful, they actually became one of our biggest clients for years later. And so, having those, sometimes you just need to look around you and the clientele's there.
Yes.
And who you can network with.
Yeah, Chris, same thing with raising money. That's not my focus is not raising money, but I've helped I've raised more than $20 million now for clients. But that's it. What you just shared. I mean, it's within arm's length, within a mile. Probably everyone listening, within a mile, there's probably billions of dollars available for investment. But people don't realize it's not something on the other side of the world or other side of the country. There is money, within your arm's reach for business.
I'm logging into Google Maps right now. Search money. No, I'm just kidding. Better go hit up my neighbor. You're right. I mean, I'll never forget the acres of diamonds story. And I can't remember, was it Alan? Somebody named Alan, or somebody that was it Clement Stone? But the acres of diamonds story. Do you remember that story?
Yeah, I do. Why don't you share it, Chris?
Let me see if I can remember it. In my old ancient age, I used to listen to the Earl Nightingale records when I was a kid. I believe it was W. Clement Stone. Does that sound?
That sounds right.
That sounds about right.
But I don't think it's his story. I don't think the story though, I think is actually a guy in Africa. Was it? He lived in Africa and left his home.
Yeah, there was a diamond. There was a guy who lived in Africa, and he'd heard these stories, and he had a ranch or a farm in Africa, a fairly large farm, and he heard these stories of these diamond miners in Africa going and digging up diamonds. And so one day he sold his ranch and he went off in search of diamond mines and trying to find the right mine. He died broke and destitute, never found his successor fortune or a worthwhile diamond mine. Meanwhile, the person who bought his ranch one day was wandering out across the ranch and noticed in the stream several shiny objects, stones. So he pulled a couple of them out of the stream and put them on his mantle. and didn't really think much about it other than, oh, that looks really beautiful. And one day, someone, a friend of his, came to the house and went, "Oh my God, that's a humongous diamond." And he goes, "Oh, that's the stream's full of them out of the ranch." And turns out the person who had sold the diamond mine and went searching the whole world for the diamonds had one of the largest diamond reserves right on his ranch in his streams. And because he hadn't taken the time to check out what was around him and what was in his streams and learn probably more about his product, he died destitute, and he went searching for something that was there all the time for him, which is probably a paradigm we can use in a lot of different aspects of life. But I believe it was one of the creators of one of the religious colleges that created that story. My apologies for not being able to reference who that was. But Acres of Diamonds was the speech that he gave in the story, and it was echoed by Earl Nightingale and a lot of other great speakers. But it really is a great analogy for like what you're talking about. Sometimes the best resources, whether it's a client base, money, or business, is right sometimes underneath your feet, and you're just not aware of it. I've had people that I've had friends with that we've been friends on Facebook for years, and one day they'll go, "Hey, I got a business deal for you." And I'm like thinking, wow, I almost unfriended and blocked that person because I thought they were an idiot. But they got business. I'm glad I never got into a piss match with them about politics or something, because wow, I had no idea they've turned into money, and a lot of times they actually turn into really good friends that we have for years and years and years, which is another side benefit of all that. But yeah, the Acres of Diamonds story. I believe W. Clement Stone worked with Napoleon Hill. Early on, he kind of preceded Napoleon Hill. If I recall correctly, he was a life insurance salesman, and he taught different things like that I learned a long time ago in sales, like don't ask a man for his time, just take it, especially when you feel that what you're selling has intrinsic value to him. So pretty interesting that way. The Bill Nightingale stories, the Zig Ziglars, of course, of the world. I remember reading their books. I think those are real important. Sales is a very important factor, I think, to running a consultancy and running on business. You have to be a salesman, I believe, in my mind. You've got to be a salesperson because it really is about sales. It's about selling yourself, selling your businesses, services.
Chris, and jump in sales. You have to be able to ask the right questions, and you have to be able to lead the conversation. It's so important. A friend of mine, I was talking recently with someone. He's like, "Well, Tim, how do you sell someone to get into a consulting contract?" And part of me, I don't think I'm. On one hand, I am potentially, because of the results, I'm a great salesperson, but I don't think of myself as a great salesperson. But what I do is simply ask some good questions, and we end up doing the deals. And so that's kind of how that works out. I'm not some flashy, fast talking guy that convinces them to do something. It's a matter of we talk about it, and we end up doing different projects. Talking about the Acres of Diamonds, I've been able to repeatedly go to companies, and we've created the largest orders for their company they've ever seen. And this has been for small companies, big companies. And the way is because I've come in and looked at the resources to be able to apply them. Dyson Vacuums, I was asked to come help with their marketing on a division. And I did just the simplest basic things. And we ended up creating the largest customer for that division they had ever experienced. My wife loves her, as a plug, my wife loves they gave us a Dyson vacuum as part of the process, but she loves her ball vacuum cleaner. It's a big deal at our house. So that was a big, nice little gift when they mailed it to me.
The vacuum bonus.
Yes.
Yeah, it's a great business to be in, working for yourself. Once you get the bug, it's hard to get rid of it. And I think you touched upon something that I used to teach our salespeople, asking questions. There's so many people when they lead with sales, it's like push, buy. And the client or the customer has to feel like you understand them and you understand their needs, values, and wants. one of the things that I used to teach our salespeople when they get their first call from a customer off of like ads we'd run or something, and the calls would light up the switchboard. The number one question that I teach my salespeople is start with the question, what are you trying to accomplish? What are you trying to accomplish? And then listen for them to finish telling you what they're trying to accomplish, what their goals are. So many times when we had problems at the closings of sales and stuff like that, were usually the client upset because their perception of what they had gotten in the end was not what they wanted at the beginning. And because the salesperson had not listened, had not asked the right questions, they were very upset about it, and they didn't feel like they were listened to, which was kind of the basis for their anger. And so having that thing where you ask a lot of questions, and of course feeding it back to the client. So what you're saying, Mr. Client, is you want help with this and the finances and resources of this, and this is how we can do that for you. And so, yeah, asking questions. I've had some people, I get this a lot on LinkedIn. You probably do too. I get the people that push at me their products, and sometimes they haven't even done the basic work of identifying if I'm a qualification, if I'm even in. I get that as well on Twitter. I get people that want to send me their beats, rap tapes,
Right.
And I'm like, maybe you should ask me if I even like your type of music. But I don't. I don't like country music. I don't like rap. I don't like classical. I kind of like classical, but I don't spend a lot of time with it. I really got to be in the mood for it. But I don't like country music, and I don't like rap. And so you should probably ask me if I even like that sort of genre. Now, if Metallica wants to hand me their latest mixtape, then we got something. But you've got to identify your client first and qualify them to see if they really need it. And that comes back to, again, what you said, asking questions that are so important.
Yeah, I usually don't. If someone sends me an email, tim@timforrest.com. But if someone sends me an email, I normally reply. Very rarely will I not reply. But anyone that sends me, hey, you guys, this is the best opportunity in the world, and I know it's not to me, and it's like plural, it's like the open world, and it's just cut and paste, I'll delete those every time. I just, but luckily I don't get a lot of those, but when I do, it's just not the way you do it. Just, talking about all these great facts, this is the best thing in the world, all this hype, it doesn't work. It needs to be personal, just like you shared, Chris. It needs to be directly to you and thinking about who you are and what value they can provide you.
I love the LinkedIn ones that I get where it's like, I want to tell you something about it's really awesome, and I want to set up a call with you, and we're going to do a call, and we'll talk about what this awesome thing is. And they send you like a calendar link where you can sign up to have a call with them. And you're just like, I have no stock in giving a damn about whatever it is you have to sell, because I don't even know what you're selling, and I don't even know if it's worth getting on a call with you. And I just hate that preposition that people send out. In fact, I'm kind of a jerk about it. When people do that, I'll be like, you want to get on a call with me? That sounds great. Tell you what, my time bill is out at X number of dollars an hour. I'm glad to get on that call unless you're a sales pitch. You just pay my hourly fee, and you have that hour, buddy. I will take that call with you, and you'll be so happy because you got a customer on the phone. I've got
on my blog, I've got an article. It says, if you want to pick my brain, here's like 10 ways to do it. And so it starts with, watch my videos, read my blog, go to an event I'm going to speak at, and then it goes on, or hire me. You can hire me for that. And so I have taken that. Someone wants to just ask me questions out of the blue like that, and I'll just say, here you go. Here's a link. But I try to put, like, everything we're talking about today. I have literally hundreds of posts on my blog that goes back years. And so everything we're talking about is on my blog for the most part, if you'll go through and spend time with it.
Cool. Give us the blog address.
The blog address is blog.timforrest.com. But you can go to timforrest.com and then hit food blog, and then it'll drop down and share different things in there.
Cool, man. Cool. Well, we're approaching the end of the hour, And so,
oh, thank you, Chris.
I'll wrap here, but I think we got some really good gold stuff, great stuff for entrepreneurs to think about, and everything else. Keeping it simple in entrepreneurism is really where it's at. And there's some of these simple principles just make all the difference in the world. Even my salespeople, I'd have salespeople that were just failing miserably, and just having them use that paradigm of what you said, listening, asking questions, and how can I help you accomplish what you want to take and do, turns them around and makes all the difference in sales. Sometimes it's just that little tweak. And sometimes I used to have to be a CEO, problem solver, psychologist, where I used to have to go in my salespeople's heads and try and figure out which dial we needed to tweak just a little bit. And suddenly they turn into great salespeople for us. So there's that aspect. Give us your plugs, Tim, and where people can find you on the interwebs.
Sure, yeah, timforrest.com. It all starts there. And then I've got a YouTube channel, Tim Forrest, over there. My LinkedIn is Tim Grows Business. So you can go to LinkedIn, Tim Grows Business. And then also, we talked a little bit about my there's a picture in the background, one of my photos. But my daily photo on Facebook, you go to islandsunrises.com. And I'm actually one of the most prolific seascape artists, seascape photographers in the world. I go out every day and take those pictures.
That's a great commitment to building a great catalog of photos, because you're going to capture. The thing about being a photographer is being able to capture the right. You can take a lot of pictures, but sometimes that magic one, you just never know when you're going to hit it, and optimizing your schedule to be available for that when that magic happens. Yeah. Is everything.
Yeah, I mean, I'm lucky. Absolutely, I'm lucky that right out. The ocean is right there, so I can just go right out and do that. But yeah, you're absolutely right. You have to do it consistently, and it's taken. It takes a lot of work. A lot of work. I didn't realize. You think it's just 30 minutes in the morning before I come to the office, but it's actually a lot more difficult than that.
The editing too is the other thing. That's the biggest challenge that I have with being a photographer, and then for me too, just trying to keep up. Just try to go back on the photos. Like, for instance, my dogs probably have 10 or 20,000 photos. That might be shorter. I'm still going through old photos from several years ago of my dogs and finding, oh wow, here's a great photo right here. And there's so much of it. I know my good friend Thomas Power. He's sometimes 4 or 5 years behind in banks of photos that he's able to finally review, because he'll go shoot 20,000 pictures at an event, and then they get in a line. I remember one time I was bugging him about some photos he took of me in 2013, and he's like, Chris, it's gonna probably take 2 or 3 years ago till you. I'm like, yeah. And sure enough, they showed up last year, like 4 years later.
That's crazy. Like, 4 years. I mean, what can you do with him after 4 years? He needs to. I don't know. Needs some assistance or something.
I mean, he does it with love, and I think from his photos, he has a full-time job, and so that's probably takes a lot of his time. He's I think a successful stockbroker. So he has to get to it when he gets to it. He has 4 great kids, and so but yeah, it's kind of funny too. The photo he finally gave me is me when I was really fat. so
you got a before and after picture.
He's got a picture of me with this giant freaking head, and I've just lost weight. I'm like, what am I gonna do with this? In fact, if you look at my Facebook thing, I think my Facebook has it profiled at one of my recent photos, and I'm just like, oh man. But it is his photo, so you can't toss it away. It's an honor to be shot by Thomas. So there's that. Anyway, thanks for joining us, Tim. We certainly appreciate it. Be sure to check out Tim's website. Go to that, check him out, follow him on social media, LinkedIn, all those great resources, and pick his brain, if you will. So
thanks, Chris.
Be sure to give us a like, subscribe to us, guys, on YouTube. Hit that bell notification so you get all the notifications of all the shows. Subscribe to the podcast on iTunes and Google Play, which we're do audio on. Also, subscribe to us on Facebook and also Twitter, of course, as well, and Periscope. Thanks to AT&T for the Samsung Galaxy S8 and S8 Plus, which we've been reviewing, of course, check out the Note 8. And of course, you can get the new Apple phones from them as well if you like. We're looking forward to reviewing the new Note 8 when it comes out. I'm a big Samsung fan. What can you say? So thanks to AT&T for always being a part of what we do there. And I think that's about it. Thanks, Tim, for coming to the show. And thanks to my audience for tuning in. And we'll see you next time.
Thanks, Chris.
Thank you, buddy.